My study was done on the effects of technology-based instruction on the written products of students with learning disabilities. The research review that was done prior to this study was important for me to be able to understand and analyze the past research that has been done in writing interventions and in technology-based interventions, to see their effectiveness and their relationship to the students that I was working with for this study. The actual study was important because writing skills are something that students are going to need throughout their school career. It is something that is needed in all areas of academics, not just in language arts. It's needed across, especially now with the new PARCC assessment, you have to write in math. So it's a skill that they're going to need throughout school. Also, it addresses each of the students, each of the participants' IEP goals. They all have an IEP goal for writing, typically for sentence completion, grammar. Writing a full sentence is what most of theirs comes down to. It's something that's huge for them right now. Also, it can provide an intervention for future or current teachers for students that are similar to these participants, have similar learning characteristics and difficulties in the area of writing. This is just my technology. The HAT model was the theoretical basis for this this study, and these are the 3 themes that will be discussed throughout the presentation that were used in my literature review. So first, the theoretical basis for this paper, like I said, was the HAT model. And basically, the basis was that the idea that assistive technology can improve the student's overall skills with using the AT device. They can improve their skills that it's designed to address. And that AT systems or devices should be designed and implemented based on the student's current levels, abilities, especially based on their needs, and the environment and context of the learning should be considered when implementing the AT device or system. The first theme for the literature review was the learning characteristics of students with learning disabilities. First of all, the main thing that I found was that it was common for students with LD to have difficulty with the metacognitive skills, which affects the overall area of writing, especially in the pre-writing phase of the writing process. So, like I said, they have difficulty planning, also written expression and organization, which is where graphic organizers will come in handy. Also, a lot of the research on this wasn't on skills, but it was a learning characteristic. A lot of the research said that students with LD are conscious of their difficulties, but they tend to attribute these difficulties or failures to a lack of ability, not a lack of effort. So they think that they can't do it, so that's why they're failing at it, because they can't do it, not because they're not trying. And the limitations for this particular theme was that the research on the actual learning characteristics was limited. Most of it focused on adaptive and social behaviors and some emotions, not a whole lot on the specific learning characteristics. My second theme was the writing interventions for students with just in general with disabilities. First of all, I found that students have difficulties with different aspects of language, more specifically written language. Some of the difficulties, once again, are due to the struggles of metacognitive skills. and processes, and they found that graphic organizers, as mentioned earlier, was a big help in improving those metacognitive skills. So those type of pre-writing strategies have been found to be effective. Also, it's been found that explicitly teaching these students how to use those pre-writing skills, such as brainstorming and graphic organizers, helps a lot in the improving those metacognitive skills. So not just showing them, modeling it once and letting them go out on their own, but explicitly teaching them every step of the way and hoping eventually they will use it independently. The limitations for this theme was that the literature didn't really, it showed more observations than interventions on the writing interventions, and it didn't really show also that interventions that worked on increasing the quality of the students' written products. It more so just showed completion, not really quality. The third theme for this for the literature review was technology-based interventions for writing. A big one that I found was word processors to write essays and sentences and paragraphs and things like that. It was found to be less stressful for the students because they were able to go back and to a specific point in their writing and fix it, and not necessarily have to erase the whole thing and rewrite it, which can be very frustrating because they just worked so hard on it and now they have to go back and erase. So working on word processors was found to lower their stress levels because of the ability to easily go back and fix it. Also, it was found to be more engaging for the students than just typically writing on paper, because I mean, in this day and age that kids they're always on the computers typically. Not all kids are able to, but a lot of kids are very into technology and would much rather be on the computer than at a desk writing on paper. So just the overall effect on engagement was big in the research that I found by using computers, which in turn increased the amount that they were able to write because they were engaged and because they got to be on the computer. Other things besides word processors that have been found to work in the research were programs like Solo and digital graphic organizers, which we learned to make an inspiration. That was one of the ones I found. Also Draft Builder, which was a part of Solo, of course. All of these were shown to be effective in improving the writing. Like I said, address those areas, especially the co-writer program in Solo. It takes away the stress and frustration on being able to spell a word correctly. It kind of guides you to which word you're wanting and which one, and it's spelled correctly. My research questions for this study were: what is the effectiveness and efficiency of using technology-based sentence building and sentence arranging to improve the accuracy of sentence completion and structure in a paper and pencil condition with students who have LD? Also, what is the social validity of this intervention? My methods, the design for this study was a changing criterion design, and this meant that once they hit one criterion, it would change to the next one, and so on. So they started with 3-word, which is on this arrow right here. They started with 3-word sentences, and then once they hit three consecutive scores of 80% on the rubric, then they were allowed to move to the next criterion, which is forward, and so on. The participants in this, just not showing up right now, but there were 3 participants, and all in the beginning were thought to have, were diagnosed with learning disability. However, one student, Liam, in the middle of the, right before implementation, after doing the research review, was reevaluated to have autism. So that was something new to look at. They're all 7 years old. They're all in 2nd grade. And the 2 boys in this participant had similar IQs of about 70. The range was from 72 to 87 between the 2 of them. And the only girl in this study, she had an average IQ of, the range on her paperwork said 99 to 109. And they all had similar writing difficulties. Of course, some were different, but overall, most have difficulty in completing a sentence, just the actual completion of a full sentence. Grammar was all the big area for all of them. Mechanics, some more than others, but in general, most of them struggle with mechanics. And relationship to the topic. More so the boys and the girl in the study, but they all had general difficulty with staying on topic. The variables in this study were the dependent variable was the completion of a written sentence, including all the areas on the rubric. And the independent variable was the intervention, which was sentence building and sentence rearranging with a technology-based intervention, which was BoardMaker. The materials needed for the study were BoardMaker plus software, a computer, the rubric, which was the data collection sheet, the writing prompts, and of course paper and pencil. The data collection for this study, it was being collected on percentage of correct word sequences and percentage of correctly spelled words, but also the main focus of data collection was on the rubric, so the overall quality of the sentences based on the rubric, and that was the big data that was taken, the percentage on there, which determined if they could go to the next criteria or not. And these were response type, mechanics, spelling, grammatical structure, and relationship to the prompt. And once again, they had to get 3 consecutive scores of 80% to be able to move on. These are just examples of writing prompts that were used for the kids. There were different ones for each criteria level. And there are 9 different ones. For instance, one of them says, write a sentence about something you like. So that's something that's engaging to the students, and this is, and those are sentences that were used for the rearranging, and this were for the building, and these were the words in the bank for the building portion that the students could choose from. This is the data sheet, the rubric that I mentioned earlier. It is on a scale of 3 to 0, 3 being the highest, and they had to get 12 out of 15 of the points. That would make 80%. And once again, the areas were response type, spelling, mechanics, grammatical structure, and relationship to prompt. The procedures for this study, the actual intervention after baseline was taken, first the students would listen to the instructions from me, and then they would start the intervention, which they would click a directions button on there, and it would give them more specific directions, such as make sure you include a capital and a period, which is something I couldn't tell them. Then the students would build a sentence by clicking on the words that are arranged on the board, and they would do it 5 times, and this is what the board looked like for the building. So they would click on each one and they could choose from the bank of them below. And then the students would rearrange sentences rearrange words to form a sentence by dragging the words into the correct boxes, so they couldn't get them wrong. These were predetermined boxes right here that the words were already designed to go into, so they couldn't build the sentence wrong. They were able to see a correct sentence being made in front of them. They were able to make a complete sentence without any errors. Finally, the students, they listened to all of their sentences at the end. Once it was done, they clicked the listen button. They could hear all their sentences, and it highlighted as being read to them. After that, the computer was closed. They weren't able to see anything on the screen. And then they were given the same prompt that was used, that they listened to earlier in the directions phase. They were given that same prompt and asked to write their own sentence on a piece of paper. So I would say to them, I want you to write a sentence about something that you like. Make sure your sentence is at least however many, whatever criteria they're on. Let's say 3 words. Let's make sure your word has at least 3. Make sure your sentence has at least 3 words in it. And then they would write their own sentence. And they would do that until they reached 80% on 3 word, and then once again moved to 4 word. And then the results for this study, overall it was generally effective. 2 participants were able to complete all levels of criteria, so all the way 3 word through 6 word, and at least 1 session of the generalization study, but that was affected by the ability to do all of them was affected by school closings. One participant, Liam, did not make it past the 3 word criteria. However, he did improve from baseline, and that can be seen in his graphs that'll be shown soon. Overall, once again, it was effective in increasing and improving their overall writing skills, seen from baseline until the end of the study. This one is Michelle's percentage on the rubric. So we can see in baseline, it's down here. And she overall, throughout the whole thing, she kept a pretty average number of sessions per time that it took her, except for the 6 word one. But you can tell by the end here that she was able to increase her overall score. She started at 50, between 50 and 60, ended at 70, and she ended up in generalization phase. She ended at 73%. She was close to 80. She was just missing, I think she actually spelled a couple words wrong. These are her number of words with 80% on the rubric. So you can see, obviously, she did increase from baseline throughout the whole process. For most of them, she did very well. You can see times that she did make 80 and then dropped for a few sessions and then got it back up to make the 3 in a row. This is Mitchell. He increased quite a lot from baseline, which you can see right here. It did, however, take him a lot longer. I believe it was 33 sessions to even make it past the 3 word one. But once he did, he improved greatly from there. He didn't go down at all after he made it to 4 word. It was a constant. He got 3 in a row, he got 3 in a row, and he got 3 in a row. And he made it through those 4, 5, and 6 word ones fast. And he was able to complete 1 generalization phase, which he did a lot better from baseline in. And these are his number of words with 80% on the rubric. And of course, like I said, Took him a while in the beginning, but once he got it, it didn't go back down to 0. It was always above that line. Liam, this is his baseline. You can see that he did improve, although he did not make it past 3-word sentences. He did improve greatly. All of these, this is his last baseline data, and all of these right here are above his baseline. It may not have met 80, but he did increase his skills significantly, and I saw that through each day that we did it with him, although some days it did depend on the day, what kind of mood he was in, but overall he did improve. And because he didn't meet 80%, this was what his graph looked like for the number of words with 80% of the rubric, because he didn't meet it at any point. These are just the overall results of the study. It can be seen from here that in baseline, Michelle was at 62% on the rubric, but she improved to 77.66. Mitchell started at 30.4, improved to 73, and Liam started at 21 and improved to 52.45. So even though he didn't make it past, he still improved from baseline. So I can, from those numbers, I would say that the study was overall effective for all 3 participants. The limitations of this study, the main one was the small sample size. There were only 3 students. Also, the age and grade. Of course, it was only done with, they were all in the same grade, all the same age. In the beginning, they all had the same type of disability. Then later found out that Liam was re-diagnosed with autism, so that's something new to look at. But I think that it needs to be these 3 things talked about here. It needs to be looked at for to be able to generalize it. So that was one limitation. Also, time. It's not really feasible to do in a classroom setting by yourself. It took 5 to 8 minutes per session with each kid. So you're looking at, there's at the least 15 minutes for 3 kids, and our class periods were only 30 to 45 minutes depending on the class. So it could take up half the class if that's all you have. So it may not be feasible for some teachers. Unless they had a TA that was willing to do that all the time. Also, type of environment. It can be very distracting for some students. Our classroom was very small, and so it was kind of hard to get away from what they were doing and what we were trying to do. So that's, if we were able to remove the kid, then remove them from the environment if it's distracting. The social validity, this is for the students. They were given a survey using these little faces right here. Overall, it was, they liked it. They liked to do it, and generally they would like to do it again, or said their friends might like to do it, and that they think that it helped them with their writing. But there was a couple of neutral faces on a couple of them, such as I liked making sentences on the computer, and I think writing made it easier for me. That was the same kid. That was the one that had difficulty with making it past the 3-word one. And the teacher on her social validity scale was 50-50 on either agreeing or strongly agreeing for each of the items that you saw on the scale in the paper. And for future research, I think that implementing it with students in middle or high school would be a big thing to look at in future research, because of course it would have to be changed from sentences, more than likely, to writing a paragraph. So you may have rearranging the sentences to form a correct paragraph instead of rearranging the words to produce a sentence. Also, trying to implement it in a comprehensive setting, since this was done in a modified setting. So trying it out with students with lower incidence disabilities is something else to look at to see if it's just as effective with them. And these are my references used here in the PowerPoint. Thank you.